Okay, good evening, everybody. Some of you I know from old, others, there's an awful lot of new members of the club, and there's some visitors on tonight, I understand, so welcome to the talk. A few weeks ago, Simon gave me the pleasure of doing a talk on etiquette and contesting. Right, okay. Well, that was a bit of a strange title. I had to go out, find a dictionary how to spell etiquette when I started doing it, so I went back into Google and went backwards a little bit. Just a little bit of my history of history really. I had 35 years in the Notts Fire Service and went up through the ranks. One of my jobs, uniform jobs, towards the later stages of that was in charge of comms and IT for the brigade, and I also was project officer for the new control room in 1995. A long while ago. That has now been replaced, and it's actually disappeared and gone to Derby now. I was also involved on a national level with the Tetra, what's it called? Anyway, the police and radio, police and fire service, ambulance service radio, airwave. So I got involved in that as well. Regarding ham radio, licensed in about 1980. Did it for 4 or 5 years. Moved house, new job, new baby, new house. Gave up in about 94, 95, and came back to it in about 2006, and the rest is history, really. Done quite a bit of contest, DXing, contesting, etc. Did a lot of RITI contesting where I did quite well and got several years in the CQ Worldwide and WPX. I was sort of in the top 5 in the UK, so we did quite a lot from a fairly modest location and aerial system. So I was quite pleased with that. So let's have a look. I'm going to put a clip on that some of you might take offence at. Don't. It's there for a purpose, and I think you'll probably have quite a smile at it.
So I was trying to work a ham radio station the other day. The pileup was huge, stretching far up the band. Fortunately for me, I have 2 receivers and can listen to the pile of callers. What I heard made me freaking sick. What the hell is wrong with you people? When the station says K7 ? That does not mean QRZ. You bozos need to shut the hell up and learn some ham radio manners and tradition. Some of you ignorant jackasses even keep calling when a station is trying to give his report. You know what? If we all follow proper procedures and use manners on the air, we would all be more successful in getting that rare contact. Before I go, let me leave you with this important bit of advice. Follow the rules, or I will be forced to administer the Vulcan nerve pinch and then kick your planetary ass. Have a good day.
Okay, I started when I started searching back, etc. What I've done with the talk actually is I'm going to start off with DXing, because DXing and etiquette and everything all leads into contesting, general operating, and everything else. So I started looking around, and this document came up. It's actually available on the RSGB website, and it's 58 pages long. Originated in 1928, was updated in 2010, but it goes through the whole ethics and everything else. I've read it. Well, I read it to page 3 anyway, and page 1 and 2 with the index. But there's a lot of stuff in there: general operating, contest operating, how to set a station up, all sorts of things. What I did find interesting is this next slide that it might be a little bit old now, but you might have a little chuckle at it, that some of the things that are actually put on it. It's a radio amateur's code. I'll go through 1 or 2. You'll be considerate. You never knowingly operate in such a way as to lessen the pleasure of others. Don't think that happens locally, does it? Not on our repeated, not on MM, does it? You'll be loyal to and support other amateurs, local clubs, etc. I think we all do that through RSGB, or a lot of us do. Recruit progressive, keep your station up to date. Well-built station, and it is a well-built station and efficient, and your operating practice is beyond reproach. This might help along a little bit, this talk. Friendly, patient, offers friendly advice and counsel to beginners, kind assistance, cooperation, considerate for others. There are the marks of the amateur spirit. I'd quite like to chuckle at this next one. Balanced. Radio is a hobby. Never interfering with duties owed to the family, the job, and the school, and the community. Anyway, chuckle at that one. And patriotic. Okay, that's what we do. Some of us do Rainet, which is a similar sort of thing about being ready for the service of your country, etc. Written in 1928. I found that quite interesting. The modern version of it is the DX Code of Conduct. This was written about 10 years ago, I think, probably maybe less than that. Anybody that's been on DXing over the last 10 years will hear the pretty awful conduct of a lot of DXers. I don't think it's as bad on contesting, but it does get fairly chaotic, and some of the things contesters do, etc., are quite similar. I'll run it through it fairly quickly because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but let's just whip through some of the things. This one I will emphasize on DXing and contesting. Before you jump in and have a go on contesting, listen and carry on listening the right way through, because if you don't, you'll miss things, you'll get it wrong, particularly when you're a new one, a new contester where you want to go on, you go on air, you hear somebody call in, they give a report, you go on, and sometimes they don't accept what, you know, they either totally ignore you, or they come back to you with, over the last 10 years, sort of polite reply that you might have been expected. But by listening, you can learn the tenure of what's happening on the contest or whatever it might be, and DX. You learn the pattern on DXing just by listening. You can learn and hear what's happening. We'll only call if I copy the DX station properly. A lot of stations are guilty of jumping in with the last two letters of a DX station and hoping they're going to, or when they don't know what the full call is. If you can't get the full call, you can't operate properly. And it's the same in contesting. If you can't get the full call, then you can't operate. I will not trust the DX cluster. And we'll be sure of the DX call sign before that links into that last paragraph. A lot of people go on the DX cluster, click on it, start calling. Problem with DX clusters, quite a lot of the time, the call signs on the DX cluster are wrong. And that got called, sent you sort of down blind alleys. This one definitely relates to contesting. I will not interfere with DX station nor anyone calling, and will never tune up on the DX frequency or QSX slot. For people that aren't quite aware, it is a split on DXing. They often run a calling channel and a calling frequency and a reply frequency. So the DX slot is the reply frequency. You get an awful lot of that on DXing. You get it on contesting as well. I will wait for the station to end the contact before I call. Again, applies to contesting. If you're impatient, you jump in. You know that you're not going to get a good reputation. Always use my full call sign. Sometimes, I believe, once you've made contact on contesting, then it doesn't matter particularly. Same on DXing. You don't put your call sign on every response. Once he's got your call sign and you're sure you've got call sign, you can do the rest of the DX response very, very quickly. Probably 59123. End of transmission. That's it. I will, I can't see that because I've got a thing in front of it. You probably can't share it as well. Right, hide that. I will call and then listen for a reasonable interval. I will not call continuously. They don't do that, do they? And it goes on. I will not transmit when the DX operator calls another call sign and not mine. Yeah, that happens a lot. I will not transmit when the DX operator queries my call sign like mine. There's a little clip after a video after this section of a station sending its call sign, and the DX station replied to a partial call, and there was two call signs with part the same, so that's quite difficult at times. Not transmit when the DX station requests geographic areas other than mine. Okay, that might be a reason on contesting. Some contests are regional. They might not want to include you. They might be working either a continent, an area that's local to them. But there are other regions. It might be trying to get a multiplier somewhere. So it might just be calling Europe or Africa or whatever, because when on the scoring on contesting, the scoring system and what they call multipliers make you direct your attention to other areas at times where you don't want other people to come in. When the DX operator calls me, I will repeat my call sign unless I will not repeat my call sign unless I think he has copied it incorrectly. Basically, you make the contact, he comes back to you, your signal's 59123, and you can go straight back to him 59124 or whatever your running number is or whatever. So it's very, very similar on contesting when you get used to it. I will be thankful if I do make a contact. If I make a rear DX contact, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you very much. And similar on contesting. I respect hams and earn their respect. Basic, but it will help you if you just consider some of those for a little while until you get used to it, until you pick up the rhythm of what you're doing. What you're doing in different contests depend on how you operate. So it varies enormously. Let me get back to where I should be. Okay, this is the clip from somebody listening to somebody a DX pileup in Japan. Very well behaved he is because he's on video, I think.
Hotel Lima 1, Zulu India X-ray. In South Korea right now, trying to break into a pileup out of Japan. It was actually about twice this bad about 10 minutes ago. Hotel Lima 1, Zulu India X-ray.
Somebody tuning up on frequency?
Another India X-ray in there. Hotel Lima 1, Zulu India X-ray. Hotel Lima 1, Zulu India X-ray. Hotel Lima 1, Zulu India X-ray. Hotel Lima 1, Zulu India X-ray.
Okay, I'll cut that one. There's loads of clips on YouTube and stuff like that, but you can see there, in actual fact, he actually gives up in the end on that one because he couldn't get in. It just shows how difficult it can be on DX and on contesting sometimes, particularly the worldwide contests and things like that. Okay, let's move directly on to contesting. What I'm going to the emphasis on the contesting part of this is very much down to getting new people onto contests. So it's fairly basic stuff. I'm not going to get anything complicated or anything. Basically, it's sort of advice of how to get on, what to do, what might give you a bit of knowledge before you actually do get on the contest, and go from there. So I'm not going to get into the really fine points of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing and everything else. But it's a good idea that there are items to think about when you start contesting. Okay, let's go. that line again. Listen and learn. You can go into different contests and some of them are very, very obvious. Like it's 5-9. It's 5-9, 1, 2, 3. Job done. That's all the exchanges, and that'll go on for 48 hours on some of the contests. And there's a little hint in that one, but you'll learn an awful lot just by listening and try and find out what's going on. I found the greatest way the most learning I did was actually sat down beside some of the people who are actually observing today, who are on the screen. Before I came back into amateur radio and joined the club, I hadn't done any contesting. And the club at the time up at the mill was doing the UKC evening contest, which I'll talk about more later. And I sat down with them. They introduced me to contesting, how to do it, how I shouldn't do it, and everything else, and probably blooded me into contesting and never forgiven them since. But still. Choose your contest. If you really want to get into it, first time round, don't go straight into CQ worldwide, SSB or whatever, one of the big worldwide contests, because again, I'll show you a clip a little bit later of a very good operator. He's operating at 200 mile an hour, and it's bang, 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 and you're not going to learn an awful lot from that. I'll go through some contests, which contest to look at a little bit later on. Whoops, what happened then? Choose your time. This is quite one, particularly in DXing and contesting. If you jump into a contest and you're not very experienced, in the first 10 minutes, you'll probably just find it's mayhem. And the same if you're very early on a new DXpedition, it's absolute mayhem. The band is just plastered, and you probably won't find a way in. Depending on the length of the contest, give it a few hours. Worldwide, CQ Worldwide, or one of the weekend contests, the 48-hour contest, wait till Sunday afternoon. Or if you can get in on, if you've got the lower bands, wait till Sunday evening. They're crying out for calls. You can go on the air, give them a call, and they'll come straight back to you, and you'll get it in your logbook. If you go in with on the first day or the first hour of a short contest, etc., it's hard work, and you might they probably won't even hear you if you've not got a largest station in the first few hours. They'll just be working the big guns and working each other and going from there. Do some research if you're serious about it. I know just ad hoc, you can just go in and you want to do it. But if you want to be a little bit serious about it, do some research before you go on. If you can identify a contest that's coming up, then go on YouTube, not on YouTube, sorry, on Google, and do a little bit of research about and you'll find out what's happening. What's the rules? Can you actually reply? some of the regional ones, you can only work certain countries, or your own country, or things like that, or your own continent, or varying different rules and bits and bobs, and not every contest anybody can just jump into. Who can enter? Maybe just members of a club. It might be a local club that just run their own contest. It might be CQ Worldwide, where everybody can enter. There might be different rules for members of the, let's say, RSGB to members of the ARRL when you actually contested, or in contesting terms. There's different scoring systems, because local can score one way, local score a different way, and even the report, their exchange, can be different between a local competitors and what they call DX competitors outside of their area. So what is that exchange? Again, that's going to tell you what the exchange is. What are the rules? And you'll find it there. It's wide and varied and quite long-winded sometimes. Sometimes it's just 5, 9, 1, 2, 3, bang, end of the exchange. Other times it's your locator, it's your name, it's your telephone number backwards, and it's all different things for different contests. How does scoring work? This will affect the way operators work. They might get a certain score or multiply. Let me just briefly talk about multiply, because I know I've not put it in later. Basically, a multiply is if you normally get maybe 1 point for each QSO you have. It varies enormously. What you might then get is a multiplier that multiplies your whole score by 1, 2, 3, 4 times or whatever. So if you work, you might get multipliers for certain countries. The common one is you get multipliers for different continents. In the UKAC one, the local VHF one, you get different, you get multipliers, or you did do, I'm not quite sure the recent scoring, Stuart might tell us later, for working different locator squares and things like that. So it affects the way people are working. So what's the exchange about? I'm going through this fairly quickly, because what I want to do is run through, then we can have a free for all at the end. Huge variety of contest exchanges. You think of a format for a contest exchange, and somebody will think of a different one. So it can be quite convoluted. Most of them include a signal report. RS or RST if you're doing one of the data modes, or CW 5.9 and a signal report. So it might be 5.9 on SSB, or 5.99 on the data modes, or on CW. Most include a serial number. Well, nearly always, and I've not seen any different ones, unless you in a multi station that the group of serial numbers start at varying stations. Normally, 9 times out of 10, they start at 1 and go on upwards. To make it uniform, it's polite and easier for the person that's receiving you to use 3 figures. Instead of saying number 1 or 21 or 32, especially if you're working into another country, they don't always stand the English terms of the numbers. So if you stick to 001 or 123 or 224 or whatever, even when you're only on the low numbers, it's a lot easier. And the login programs work. Some of the login programs work a lot better like that. After that, I say it depends on the organisers. It might be CQ zone. That's a common one. The figures in brackets are our codes. So CQ or the ITU zone is 14. That's quite a common one for us. I think America's 5 or something like that. You're quite often hear the American station's 5. The ITU region for us is 1. There's about, I think it's about 8 ITU regions through the world. State, it might be a state, it might be a postcode, it might be a district, abbreviated district 1, might be a latitude. I was reading while I was putting this together, I was reading some rules of one test, and it said latitude. First time I've heard of it, but WAB square, that's a Worked All Britain square, that's a local contest. It's worth, when they have the WAB ones, that's a contest worth having a go at, because it's fairly relaxed, it's fairly local. You won't get your head bitten off if you do anything silly on that one. And as I said earlier, there may be different exchanges for local and DX. As I said, the local club might, if it's a ARRL or something like that, or RSGB locally, it might. I've seen one in Nova Scotia where the local exchange was, I don't know what they called it, local region or county or something within Nova Scotia. Well, obviously, the calls from the rest of the world, they can't do that. So you just put the DX one, it was just 59 and serial number. So, it does vary. If a local contest, you normally, very often have chance to say hello to somebody. Hello, Joe. Nice to see you. It's you're 599123 IO92 or something like that, and you'll say goodbye and hello. In the big contests, don't expect somebody to have a conversation with you. Then they are too focused on scoring and beating everybody else. And it is, contesting at the top levels is deadly serious. And don't expect an accurate report all the time. Well, let me correct that. Most of the time, most contests, it's 5.9. Because if you give him 5.7, he's then gone to his logging software will normally put 5.9 automatically in the report field. If you give him 5.7 or 5.6 or 4.5 or something silly like that, then he's got to go in to the logging field and change it. The exception to that, or the particular exception to that, is the local UKAC contest, where you do give an accurate report. If you just put 5.9s and down there, the RSGB will look at the scores and probably either cancel your whole entry or knock some points off. I don't know exactly how it works, but there is sort of representation from the RSGB that they will not honour your entry. To run or not to run? Shakespeare now. There's 2 methods of operating a contest. You've probably heard them both. Anybody that's done contesting will have worked both of them, because you always, unless you're a multi-operator, multi-radio station type entry, then you do most of it. If you're a good top station, it will be running. The other one will be search and pound. So they're the 2 methods of operation. Search and pounce, I recommend if you are a beginner. Don't try running. You'll get trampled on within the first 5 or 10 minutes, and your brain will go to mush, your login will go to pot, and you'll probably jump out pretty quick until you get used to it, until you get the run of it. Search and pounce, basically you go looking for somebody. You go looking and you find a station calling CQ, you tune on to his call-in frequency, and you, when he stops calling, you go back with your call sign. That's all you need. So if it was M0W and WY calling CQ contest, and it was only him on that frequency, you would just go back with your call sign, G4NDM, and then he would come back to you if he's got it. Then you made the contact, and off you go. And once you've got that contact in and you know who it is, then that's half the battle, and it's easy after that. Easier after that, not easy. So that's the sort of principle. Search for a station, jump on them, send your report, and hopefully they get the report back. The other one is running. Running is this chap who's calling CQ contest. He's the man that's got the frequency. It's his frequency till somebody pushes him off, which happens a lot in contests. Shouldn't do, but it does. You on the station calling CQ, and you remain on that fixed frequency. The search and pounce people will come to you. So you're the man controlling that frequency. You're the man who decides where you are looking for calls. If you're looking in Europe, if you're looking in Africa, if you're looking in your own country or whatever, you're the man that decides what's happening on that call. I found in contests that it doesn't happen that much. Mostly, it does on UCACs occasionally, because these multiplier squares, later on towards the end of a contest, people can see how many squares they've got, and they find they've not got a particular square, so they'll beam at that square and start calling that square and try and get a response from it. And it happens occasionally. So that's the sort of operating side of it. Which contest do you choose? Quite a difficult one, this. There are, as I'll show you in a couple of slides later, there are probably 20 or 30 contests on HF at the weekend, and it's full of contests, several of which you will probably be able to hear quite well. And which do you choose? There's a few around. The RSGB run evening and weekend contests. They're local people, local hams, probably very, very often in the evenings on 40 and 80. It's a fairly friendly contest, very much based around clubs. So, very often it is a club contest, most of those. So if you can, especially if you can join a club and get in with them, etc., and go use that one. That's quite a nice one on HF. HF field day is a bit more frenetic, but it is let me just clarify. This is RSGB field day, the SSB field day. Happens once a year. Special rules about how you can set up, etc. Great one for a club to take part in, and it's not quite so frenetic, but it can get a little bit hectic. Islands on the Air. For those who haven't heard of Islands on the Air or IOTA, there's an index of all the islands around the world, and each one of those islands is given a specific number. And you often get, for the IOTA weekend, you get stations go onto these rare islands, set a station up, and start taking part in the IOTA contest. Some excellent DX on this contest sometimes, so you can get some really scarce calls, and certainly if you're looking squares and things like that, the actual locators, there's some quite rare ones on there. It's quite a good contest, that one. For the brave, CQ Worldwide, why not? I've been using it as an example. As I say, don't jump in on the first day. It's a 48-hour contest from, I think it's midnight, somewhere around midnight anyway, on Friday night to midnight on Sunday. Give it to the second day and then have a go. Just search around, see what's happening. You'll find the bigger stations are starting to slow down, and you'll hear them calling and calling and calling and calling. That's your opportunity to go and jump in give your call sign and go from there. WPX is another contest run by CQ Worldwide, and CQ WPX are run by the CQ magazine in America. This is another one. Different method of scoring and multipliers, etc. This one is just 5-9. And you get your scores from the first 2 letters, characters of your call sign. And so you collect the calls together. You might get, I don't know, how many can you get for UK? Probably you can probably get about 10 or 20, I don't know, 10, 15 actual varying prefix letters from UK just on CQ on a WPX type contest. There's a couple of others. The German amateur radio club, Deutschland Amateur, what is it, ARC, isn't it? Something like DARC. They run a similar. They run Worked All Europe. That's quite an interesting contest as well. If you go to VHF and up, the top one at the top of the list, if you want to have a go at contest, do that one. You can enter as an individual, but you can also enter as a competitor, as a club. I think there is a restriction on actually taking part. I think you've either got to be registered with the RGB or registered with a club to actually take part. So there is a little bit of restriction on that, who can actually take part. And I think they're the sort of 2 categories. But you can enter as an individual, or you can enter. Everybody enters as an individual. Clubs enter as a club call, and they're all listed on the results just by your call sign, basically. So you're mixed in with everybody. There are different categories. There are 3 power levels. AL is the QRP up to 10 watts. What's the middle one? AO. No, it's not AO. AR, isn't it? AR, sorry. AR is up to 100 watts, and AO is unrestricted up to your license conditions. So you can have a go at that one in the different ones. I'll show you the calendar for that. There are different frequencies on different nights, mostly Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they go right through 50 meg, 70 meg, single. No, I can't say that. Most of them are a single frequency. The ones in the very high gigahertz bands, they do 2, 3, 4 different frequencies because there's not many of them on, and they work all the bands, all the microwave bands on one night. So PW magazine run 2 contests, a 70 meg contest and the 14 megahertz contests. There's a QRP section in that one, which is very, very popular. So you can go up on top of a hill with your 817 or whatever it is now, 818 or whatever. Get on a nice high point and work quite a good, have a fair bash at working some other QRP stations, which is nice. There's also, again, RSGB National Field Day. That one's in June. And again, that's a brilliant club contest. Get plenty of, with the people you've got in the club, you can mostly get a fair number of beams up and a fair number of masts up and work all the different bands. The different bands operate at different times in the day. So it starts on at 2 o'clock on Saturday, ends at 2 o'clock on Sunday. But the different bands on particularly on the VHF one, go through different time periods. Okay, I've talked a lot about UK ACs. You can see where the UK AC or UCAC is the short one that you get for there. Quick look at that one. Great one, as I've been saying, to start with. That's the one I started on. Terry, David, don't know if there's anybody else on that were doing it at the time when I first joined the South Knights. Were doing it, and we had quite a good session up at Snark, up at the mill, doing the contests. I eventually broke away and went on my own, but my points still counted toward the overall Snark total. Most radio clubs take part. Some big clubs. There's a rule or a congregation of competitors that are part of a club that I don't particularly agree with. Part of a great big club that join to get as many operators from around the country as you can and call it a club, and they'll put the scores in together. Stuart might not agree with that, but that's how it takes part, and they tend to mop up the large clubs results. They tend to mop that up. Wide range of operating skills. There's beginners on there. There's loads of beginners on there. That's what it's for. That's the environment where you can go in, make an idiot of yourself. People don't mind. They realise that you're a beginner. You can stutter, etc., and all the rest. You get the calls wrong, and people will put you right. And if you the beauty of it, if you're with a club, people become watching over your shoulder and saying, when you start to log it, that wasn't a call sign, and what do you get wrong, and try doing it this way, and that's quite a nice way of getting into it. Multi-ops are allowed, so if you're operating from a club environment, you have half an hour, sweat dripping off your forehead, your sweaty underarms, etc., and you've probably had enough, especially the first time you start running. If somebody encourages you to have a go at running, you can get a little bit hectic at times, and probably half an hour on your first contest is enough. But you can break away, somebody else can take your seat, and you can the station can carry on in the contest, etc. They have monthly contests through the year, so every month, most months, I'll clarify that in a little bit. There's a 2-meter contest every month. There's a 70 sems contest, 50 megs, 70 megs. Where are we? Where do we go from 1.2 gig and up with there? So depending on which Tuesday or Wednesday night it is in the month, then that depends what frequency you can have a go. More importantly, if you're fairly new to the contesting, you've probably only got FM gear. There is an FM section, certainly before the 2-meter and the 70 sems, so 2-meter and 70 sems sections, where there's an hour before, I think it's an hour or half an hour, I'm sure, I think it's an hour before the contest, where it's FM only. You don't get bombed out by the bigger stations on SSB. You can use FM in the big contest if you want to. There's no restriction on it, but not many people are listening to FM because it's a different frequency, you've got to sort of abide by the rules of your license and where the calling channels, etc. are. Logging. This is a big subject. I'm not going to go in any detail whatsoever. I'll just give a couple of pointers and go from there. It's a separate subject we could have all night on logging. And I'm aware that I've been rabbiting on for quite a long while now. Don't forget paper, especially when you first start. It's a lot easier to write down than try and use a computer logging system. I did it for quite a long time when I first went on my own up on a hill. Unfortunately, I started getting too good. I started going from 30 contacts or QSOs, whatever, up to the sort of 80s and 90s. And I was ending up with 3 sheets of A4 solid, which then if I wanted to put an entry into the contest, I had to type them all out when I got back. Loads of chances of making errors, and particularly on the UKAC one, logging is one of the important things. You've got to get it all right. Call sign, your exchange, your locator square, have all got to be correct. If it's not on both ends of the QSO, the one that the chap you send it, you're talking to, and your log have got to agree. If it doesn't, that QSA is crossed out of your entry, of your score. So logging is quite important on that one. Very short VHF. If you're on Minos, if you're on VHF, use Minos. I'll just leave it at that. Minos is a dedicated VHF and up logging system, very, very much directed at the UCAC and the RSGB weekend cost tests and things like that. There's a diary as part of the system you log into, and you click that it's Tuesday night and you're entering the VHF contest, and it more or less fills your log out. It doesn't fill your log out, but it fills all the conditions out on your log, and what time you can operate. It won't let you log anything before the start of the time, and at 10:30 when it finishes, it stops you logging. Those sort of things, and make sure you fill all the squares for everything you've got to type in. So it's written for those contests. Brilliant, very easy to use once you've sort of sorted it out a little bit, but I wouldn't say anything else. HF, if you're used to a particular logging system, and it has some form of, most of them have some form of contest screen or whatever abbreviator. The problem with some of them, actually getting to the screen down to what you want to enter is a little bit difficult. So you end up with, probably 5, 6, or maybe 10 entry windows on a normal HF logging system, where you only want 3 on contesting. You don't want to be cluttered, the screen to be cluttered up with any more. And some of the supposed contest screens on the general purpose HF logging systems don't do your scoring properly. With the different scoring rules on different contests, they don't do it. So then you've got to do it. And also they don't particularly format your entry. So when you've done the contest, you go back next day, you get it set it on your computer, open the web page for your club or whatever, and go on, and it wants it in a particular format. Some of the HF login systems don't. So it is better to go for one of the not dedicated contest login systems. I haven't put any in because I don't want to particularly sell any one. Probably the biggest one is N1MM Plus. N1MM has been around for a donkey's ages, and it's been updated over the last sort of 4 or 5 years quite dramatically. But if they run a calendar. If you go on to any one of the bigger contests, the scoring system for those contests will be in there. You go on the N1MM log site website, and that contest on there, you'll click on that, and the macro that will drive your logging system is automatically loaded. So your screen is just set up, your scoring system set up for you, and your reporting system, your actual database reporting system is all there. I know David uses a different one. There are numerous ones. We can sort of spend all night talking about the different ones, but that's really as much as I want to say about logging at the moment. It is worth the time learning one, and if you're serious about contesting. Just a quick reminder, if you work several QSOs, it's worth thinking about putting a check log in. A check log is putting your log in but not entering the contest, and it helps the contest adjudicators sort out some spurious calls, because very often if you only have one contact in a contest with somebody, that score will be ignored for the purpose of scoring. So it is polite, if you've got quite a few, if you've got 10, 15 contacts there, think about putting a check log in. You can do it for the VHF ones as well. You don't have to enter the contest, but it's just something to think about. Contest information. How do you find out what's happening then? Well, you go on somewhere like this. And this always happens. This doesn't come up in the right screen, so hold fire a little bit. That is, there's several of these. Look for contest calendar on Google, and it'll bring you up particular contests, and it'll tell you what contests are happening on a particular day. You can look in months, you can look in years, etc. And even better than that, you click on each one and it tells you all the rules, etc. When's the weekend? I can't see the weekend, can you? They're the different, most, I would say, exclusively HF contests over one weekend. And that certainly in the, well, late winter, spring into summer, and then going out the other end when HF conditions are better, is the pattern throughout the year, or throughout that part of the year. And even through the winter, there's still an awful lot of contests over the weekend, but it gets busier when conditions improve in spring, summer, and autumn, and goes from there. I did see, yeah, RSB Commonwealth one, John, EDX, that's one for you. The CW only contest, quite a relaxed one because it's Commonwealth countries only. That's what I was talking about. That people, you know, just going in and listening and just jumping in, they might not, you might not be able to enter if you're not in the contest. You are in this case, but a German looking at it wouldn't be able to enter it. If you click on any of these on this left-hand side, it takes you straight to the site and all the rules and everything else. There is, I go on from there, and a European one. This used to be run by SM7, but it looks like it's given up on PG7 now, does it? Again, you can click on the month, change the month or whatever, and it'll bring you up the contest for that particular month, and you can go from there. And these are all the contests in March. Who's running them? What the exchange is. So that particular one, I don't know what it is. Let's look at the club championship. That's CW only, and the exchange is RST and serial number. Let's see if I find a different one. I haven't got a clue what dig number is. There's one there, RST and dig number. Oh, that's because it's a group. It's a DIG group. So they'll have an identified number. And again, non-members on this one, they're just RST. Hundreds. Have a look yourselves. What I'll try and do is put some links up, get signed to put some links up later for you. Okay. And the last one is our RSGB site. This is the VHF calendar on the RSGB site. And you can see here the 144 UCAC is the first Tuesday of every month. The 50 megs is the second Thursday of every month. I don't know why they put it in that order. 17 megs is the first Tuesday. 70 megahertz is the third Thursday. Every third Thursday is also the 1.3 gig contest, and super high is on the fourth Tuesday. The fifth Tuesday, if there is one in the month, you get a day off. And there's also quite a lot of down there about the different weekend contests and everything. But let's leave it at that. Listen now to a very experienced contester. Something like 3 million points in the CQ worldwide. Just look at his skill and the speed he's operating.
Sierra Victor 3, Delta Charlie X-ray, you 5920.
Thank you, 5920.
Roger, thanks. Towards that, Tango Alpha 7, Oscar Mike.
United Radio 5, X-ray Mike.
United Radio 5, X-ray Mike, you 5920.
5916.
Roger, thanks. Towards that, Tango Alpha 7, Oscar Mike.
Charlie Radio 5 Tango.
Charlie Radio 5 Tango, you 5920. Thank you. Towards that, Tango Alpha 7.
Somebody tuning up on frequency again.
Kilowatt whiskey again, please. Whiskey 6, kilowatt whiskey, you 5920. Number Tango again.
Okay, let's just leave it there. You can see the speed and the seriousness of a big station. If they are in it to win it, as they say, and they will do that for 36 hours out of 48. That's how they win contests. That's how I won. Oh, I got the placings on the RITI contest. I think the most I did was 36 hours out of. So yeah, 32 out of 36, because you can only do 36 out on a 48-hour contest, and that's how you get your points, and you have to work hard at it. And I can assure you, after 32 hours of it, you are absolutely dead. Okay, part of the UCAC contest, and also very often when you identify where you live on certain IT systems, they ask for the Maidenhead locator or QRA locator. The world is divided up into squares, basically, and click anywhere or search anywhere on the surface of the earth, including the oceans. No, excluding the ocean. I don't think they're actually numbered, although yeah, they are, because later on I'll show you one. But they're given letters, etc., and that identifies a square that you're operating from. Not very useful if it's just two letters, but what you can do, you can go and find your square. There is loads. Again, go into Google, search for either Maidenhead locator or QRA locator, and just excuse the phone a moment. Okay, right. It always happens, doesn't it? Just there, the locator square will appear. So if I click anywhere in the world, you'll see HN on there. If we go over Africa, it's IL just there. I don't know whether you can all read that. It's probably a bit small. So that the world is divided up into squares. Let's drill in a little bit. Let's get UK in the centre there. If you go even down further, it's actually divided into even smaller squares. So you can see that is IO 91. Most of the UK is IO. Apart from a little bit down this side, a little bit of, if you take the line down there, that side on that area is JO, but everything else on this side of that square is JO. If we go in over, let's get Nottingham in the middle. If we go in over Nottingham, we go in a little bit further, and let's find Nottingham. Where are we? I'm going blind. There we are. There's Nottingham in the middle. Click on there. Go in a little bit further, and you'll get the local square. Mapley, the club address would be KV. I think Simon's locator is KV, and mine is forgot KW. Forgot what it is. Can I a message from Simon? Can you go into your registered data that you put in the club website and make sure you've got the correct locator square? Because apparently we've got an awful lot of people living in IO 80. I don't know why. Maybe it was the example in the and you didn't know what was going. It basically log in, go on something like this, and you can very, very easily find your locator square. And that's the locator square you use in the UCAT. You use the square, just to remind you, use the square where you're transmitting from. So if I go out to my local hill down near Merton Mowbray, it's a different square to the one where I live when you're doing the contesting. If you want any more about that, just ask Simon or myself or whatever at some time. Okay. Forget that last one. It's exactly the same, gives you exactly the same information, just a different one. A few photos just to finish. Just about managed to keep him within my hour. Just out of interest, purely interest these are. It's a great, once you get into contesting and things, and particularly on the UKAC ones, because you can get a better result by going portable. It's great for getting out in the countryside, etc. That's my 2-meter setup on the top of Broughton Hill near Melton Mowbray. That's 70 megahertz, I think, just above Clifton, actually, David, on the old road to Barton, on the old road, about 300 or 400 yards up there from the new island. There's a tarmac runoff into a field. You can park up there, and it's not a bad location, actually. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I did operate one club net up there.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That's again top of Broughton Hill, slightly different place on 1.2 gig. Different way of holding the mast up. That's in the middle of the night. Don't forget contests carry on in the winter. And it's probably dark when you set up and dark when you finish. I'll tell you what, it's late. When it's 10:30, when you're up on a top of a hill and it's late, the time you get home, it's 11:15ish or something like that. And it's a bit eerie at times, very quiet. And you get the occasional policeman stopping and saying, "What are you doing then?" Quite surprisingly, I've had 2 or 3 of them pull up, and they've actually been amateurs or had some military background in comms. That's inside the car. That's a 1.2 gig transverter, just with an 817. I had an 857 just mounted in the dash. That's a multi-mode, and I used to do 270 contests just with that to start with. That's when you get a bit more ambitious and stupid. Kit grows, and it grows and grows and grows, and you do different things and try and get better equipment. Try and keep it simple, because this is just too stupid for words. That's it on the driveway, lashed into the car, ready to go out. And the mast, and what's that? I think that's a 70. No, it isn't. It's a 1.2 gig antenna just sticking on the top of it. And it's cold, especially in the winter. Go prepared. These are some of David's. Do you want to take these, David? Do you want to come in and take what these are?
Yeah, well, the gentleman on the left is Trevor G4IRH, long-time member of, well, used to be a member of the club. And looking at the back of the head, I believe that's Terry himself on, that would be HF Sideband Field Day or Region 1 Field Day. So we've got a Kenwood 922 linear there, the FT1000 MP, and the AC rotator. And I believe the software was one called NA, but without a close-up, I think that's the one we used, which is very good for networking. There we have a long view of the station. So Strumec 60-foot mobile tower, caravan and awning, which is our living quarters and eating quarters for 24 hours over a weekend. Used to set up on a Friday evening get everything fully set up on the Saturday morning, and then run through till Sunday afternoon, rip it all down and go home for sleep and showers. I think from the back, also on the back of people's heads, I believe that's G0FOG Foggy Colin. The young lad's name eludes me. He was a novice holder, I believe. Early days, we got the TL922 again. I think that was a Yaesu 707, some homebrew software, and on the left there is an Earl, I think it's like a BBC Micro or a Sync ZX or something, running the packet cluster off a handheld in the good old days of the true packet cluster on packet before it became the DX cluster.
You can tell the date by the size of the monitor.
Yeah, that's its own car, and that is the old Strumec tower we used to have, topped by the tri-band 2015 and 10 tri-band Yagi at about 60 feet, depending on where we were working. Running at, I think the term is full power, to put it nicely. And you can just see on there was also the packet cluster aerial at the bottom. But we were sort of just in the corner of the caravan. There was a 2-meter aerial for the packet cluster. Because he shoved it to the top, it didn't like the high power up there, and it would interfere with the ZX Spectrum. But we got better. We started off when we were nowhere. We got better by practicing it and working it and tuning it, and we had some help from an amateur in the area, Chris G4NDM, who sort of helped us along with little hints and kinks. And towards the end, we were getting into the top 10 in Region 1. Always been by people like G6YB and people like that, which were serious contesters and had far more kit and money than we'll ever have.
Can get serious contesting, can, and some countries and some clubs spend phenomenal amounts of money on club contesting, etc. If you look at that slide there, 4 identical stations. I'm sure they're all HF. Same as this one. I didn't actually end up counting this. I think there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Probably either operating a band each, or on the same band there'll be a running station and a search and pounce station. So that's when it gets very serious. And supporting the station like that, you've got a massive aerial farm. Apologies for the quality of these. I just grabbed these images off the internet. Okay. A lot of what I spoke tonight, although I didn't particularly get it from this, is in this manual here. It's an RSGB publication. That's my own version, old version. That's the latest version. I think it's issue 16 or something like that. No, it's not issue 16. It's £16. £16 from the RSGB. It's a general operating book. It tells you how to set a station up, what to do when you get the station set up. Everything from having your first QSO up to contesting and digital bands, the whole works. It's quite a good read, quite a good reference source for somebody that's new into the, you've done your exams, whatever level at, you want to move on. I think that's quite a good manual for actually telling you how to do things practically, not the theory, just how to do them. And quite a good section on equipment. So this is the last bit of video. This is G6UW. The contestants amongst us are known. That's the VHF, UHF, etc. Contest station for Cambridge University. unfortunately, on the other end of him is somebody that's not very good. Can I leave it at that? And they are obviously, G6UW are obviously waiting for a particular square. The square that the person's operating from is J003, which is a bit rare. There's not many amateurs in J003, and towards the end of contests, you start looking for J003. And I think that's what they're doing here, but it's quite an amusing bit of video. You have to listen quite carefully to actually get the audio of the other station. Right, let's go.
I don't know at all. Is this a contest? Is this a contest?
Just ask that question. While he's talking, and say, is this a contest, gentlemen?
We can actually work more than one station in 2.5 hours.
Well, they want it to be 2 hours, remember?
Golf 6 uniform whiskey. I got the fucking weather. Golf 6 uniform whiskey. Golf 6 uniform whiskey. Yeah, Roger, you're 59025, Juliet Oscar 02, America, Florida, over.
Okay, good evening to you. It's 013, only got here an hour ago. Juliet Oscar 03, America, Delta, over.
QSL, many thanks, 73, good luck.
Okay, quite funny that one. It's a bit difficult to hear the audio on the station that's on the other end of that. But basically, I was having a conversation with his mate and couldn't care less about what was happening around it. UCAC isn't that serious, and you can very often say hello to a mate. You know, I've not seen you for a while, but then you jump on, get your exchange gone and done, and off you go on to the next one. Just leave you with that. It's great fun, especially as a club event, because you get a lot of people together, putting a lot of effort in to do things. It will improve, and I can't stress that bit enough. It will improve your operating skills and your confidence once you get into contesting. If you can start handling a run, especially for a fair time, then your skills come up enormously. Particularly my typing skills came up when I started typing in straight into a laptop while I was on top of a hill. Best way to learn is to get stuck in, have a go, but be warned, it can be addictive.